one of the most notorious clashes in, rap history, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's 50 Cent versus Rick Ross.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't just your average, Twitter beef. We're going way beyond the surface here. We're going to unpack the core dynamics, the twists and turns that have made this rivalry so captivating.
Yeah, think of it this way. Like, we're going to give you like a crash course on all the key events, all the drama, all the layers that make this feud so fascinating and so intense. And look, we're not here to just like gossip. We're really trying to look at what these events tell us about the artists themselves, what it says about hip hop culture as a whole.
Yeah, and the ripple effects, I think, too.
It's absolutely.
So let's get right into it, I guess. Where did this whole thing begin?
Well, it all seems to have started back in 2008 at the BET Awards. And Rick Ross apparently took offense to something 50 Cent did, or, well, didn't do. It was a glance, or a lack of a glance. Like, 50 didn't even look at him.
Like, straight up ignored him.
Yeah, basically. And the crazy thing is 50 Cent has said he has zero recollection of this moment whatsoever.
Wow. So we have like a phantom snub.
Right.
That ignited this whole firestorm.
It's amazing. And it's important, I think, to remember where Ross was at this time in his career. He had 2 platinum albums under his belt. He was, feeling himself, I think it's safe to say.
Oh, absolutely. He was on top of the world.
Yeah.
He had this aura of being untouchable.
Yeah.
And when you're riding that high, any perceived slight, especially from someone like 50 Cent, who's, already a legend, it's going to sting. It's going to feel like a major disrespect. Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, 50 Cent at this point is, already a huge name in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So for Ross, who's, still kind of building his legacy, this must have been a major blow to the ego. And it really, I think, set the stage for what became like a very personal vendetta.
Exactly. Like, he was coming for blood, basically.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have 50, who's like completely oblivious.
Doesn't even remember this happening. It's like you're gearing up for war and the other guy's just like having a sandwich. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's wild. So yeah, Ross definitely did not let this slide. His first move,
What'd he do?
he dropped a diss track called Mafia Music. But this wasn't just your typical back and forth, lyrical sparring. He went there. He referenced the house fire that involved 50 Cent's baby mama and his son.
Yeah, that was dark. And to add even more fuel to the fire, 50's ex, Shanika Tompkins, had already publicly, spoken about that fire and made some pretty serious accusations. So this wasn't just like a random diss. This was like hitting below the belt,
It was a huge escalation for sure. It took things out of the realm of, typical rap bravado and into like deeply personal territory. And I think that's what really signaled Ross's intent here. Like, he wasn't just playing around. He wanted to inflict some real damage.
Yeah, it was strategic. It was calculated. And you knew 50 wasn't going to just sit back and take that.
Oh, no, he didn't.
I mean, this is 50 Cent we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is where things, I feel like, really kicked into overdrive.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Because 50's counter strategy, it wasn't just about releasing his own diss track or, whatever. He went for the jugular.
Yeah.
He wanted to destroy Ross's entire public image. And he did it in a way that was, just brutal, but also kind of brilliant.
By revealing to the world.
Rick Ross's past as a correctional officer.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get much more, contradictory to the image he'd built than that.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's, built his brand on being a street kingpin, untouchable. And suddenly everyone sees him in a steel uniform. It had to have been devastating.
It was massive. It completely undermined his credibility. Like, here you have this rapper talking about, running the streets, being this hardcore gangster. And then you see the photos, the evidence that he was literally working for the system. It's like the ultimate betrayal of the image he was trying to project. And, it just goes to show how important authenticity is in the hip-hop world, especially when you're building your whole persona around a certain lifestyle.
Right. It's all about keeping it real.
Yeah.
And Ross got caught fronting, I guess is the word. And 50, he didn't stop there. He went straight to the source. He went to Rick Ross's baby mama, Tia Kim. And this is where things get really messy.
Oh yeah, Tia did not hold back. She basically aired every humiliating detail about Ross's lifestyle. She talked about how he was leasing cars, renting jewelry, all this stuff to make it look like he was living this lavish lifestyle, when in reality he wasn't nearly as wealthy as he pretended to be. It was like a total takedown.
Yeah, it's like he built his whole image on this facade of wealth and power. And 50, with Tia's help, just ripped it all down. It was brutal. And of course, Tia also confirmed, the whole correctional officer thing. So that just added insult to injury.
Absolutely. And 50, he wasn't content with just letting Tia do the talking. He took her on a shopping spree. He flew Ross's son to Vegas with Floyd Mayweather.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was like a power move. It was like 50 saying, look, I'm only going to expose your secrets, but I'm going to win over the people closest to you.
Yeah.
It was like a psychological warfare tactic.
Exactly. And the fact that Ross was pretty much silent during this whole thing, it just made 50 look even more dominant. Like, he had no response.
Yeah, he's completely outmaneuvered. But then 50 made a move that a lot of people considered to be like a major misstep. He leaked that tape with Ross's other baby mama, Listonia Leviston.
Yeah, and that was a big turning point because it led to that $5 million lawsuit for emotional distress, which 50 ended up losing. And it even led to him filing for bankruptcy, so it was a huge L for him.
Yeah, it was a major blow. And I think it shifted public perception a bit too, because while people were, definitely entertained by the whole Officer Ricky thing, leaking that tape was seen as crossing a line.
Yeah.
It was like, even though Ross had been exposed as being kind of a fraud, it still felt like 50 had gone too far.
It's like the public was more okay with the career sabotage than the invasion of privacy. It's a tricky line to walk.
Yeah, for sure. But even after that major setback, the drama didn't end. And a lot of that was thanks to Tia Kemp. She just kept coming back for more.
Oh, she was relentless. She went on Instagram Live saying that Ross was still shook of 50 because 50 knows too much. Like, she was hinting that there was something even darker going on than just your typical rat beef. It was like she was dropping breadcrumbs and leaving everyone wondering what the hell was she talking about.
Yeah, it was like she was implying that Ross had something to hide. Something that went beyond, just being a fake gangster.
Yep.
And then there was the whole thing with the Smooth magazine photos.
Oh, God.
The ones from like way back in 2009, right? Tia Kemp on the cover and the photographer.
50 Cent.
50 freaking Cent. The guy who's been beefing with the father of her child for years. It's like something out of a soap opera.
It was so bizarre. And the magazine's tagline was, "Where's the beef?" Like, they knew exactly what they were doing. It was so shady.
So petty.
Yeah.
So calculated. It's almost comical. But then the feud, it took another turn in recent years when Rick Ross linked up with Big Meech after he got out of prison.
Right, and that was a big deal because 50 Cent is the executive producer of the BMF TV series, which is all about Big Meech's life. So for Ross to align himself with Meech, it was seen as a direct shot at 50, like he was stepping into 50's territory.
Yeah, it was like a power move for sure. And 50 didn't hesitate to respond. He posted that rap meme on Instagram, the one referencing Tammy Sins, the alleged FBI informant.
Right, he was basically implying that Meech was a snitch, which obviously was not a good look for Ross. And Ross's reaction to all this,
I remember he just laughed it off, like he didn't even care.
which probably just made 50 even more pissed off. It's like a never-ending cycle of one-upmanship.
And then Tia Kemp, she came back into the picture and dragged Ross into the whole Diddy scandal.
Oh yeah, she called him Diddy Doula.
Which is just brutal.
Yeah.
And she accused him of being involved in all sorts of shady business. Like, she was basically saying that Ross was just as bad as Diddy, if not worse.
And then she dropped a bombshell. She said that Ross had put hits on people and that she was going to go to the feds with everything she knew.
Wow. I mean, that takes things to a whole other level. It's not just about diss tracks and social media posts anymore. This is like serious criminal allegations.
Right. And she started naming names. She talked about M. Carroll, who she claimed was murdered by someone connected to Ross. And she talked about a man who was shot in front of a black house. Like, it was getting really dark, really fast.
And she didn't stop there. She talked about how Ross was a terrible father, how he has more kids than he claims, including one with a Russian woman, and how he tries to control their son's life. Like, he wanted him to go to this specific college in Mississippi, even though the kid didn't want to.
And then there were the issues with Ross's sister Renee and the alleged fight he got into with another one of his baby mamas. It's like his whole personal life was imploding.
Yeah, it was like a total meltdown. And Tia even said that Ross had sent her cease and desist letters, like he was trying to silence her.
It's crazy. And after all these revelations, all the accusations, you have to wonder, is there even more to this story? Is there something even darker that Ross is hiding?
Yeah, it's like we've peeled back all these layers and we still don't know the full truth. And then the question that everyone keeps asking, did 50 Cent win this whole thing?
I mean, on the one hand, he's the one who exposed all this stuff about Ross. He's the one who ruined his reputation.
And yet he lost that lawsuit. He had to file for bankruptcy.
True, but I think in the court of public opinion, he might have come out on top.
Maybe. But then why is Ross still so afraid of him? Why is Tia Kemp saying that he's shook? Why is there all this talk about something darker going on?
I don't know. It's a mystery. But one thing's for sure, this feud is far from over.
So after this deep dive, what have we learned? Well, I think it's clear that this isn't just your typical rap beef. This is something way more personal, way more intense. It's about ego, it's about revenge, it's about power, and maybe even about something darker, something we may never fully understand.
Yeah, we've gone from diss tracks to leaked tapes to lawsuits to allegations of murder and who knows what else. And it all started with a glance, or lack of a glance, at an awards show.
It's insane, and it makes you think, what does it really take to build a public image? And how easily can it all be shattered? What are the consequences when these feuds, these battles, they spill over into our personal lives, into the legal system, and even into the realm of potential criminal activity?
It's a question that lingers long after the music stops.
Food for thought, I guess.
Definitely.
So we went deep today.
Deep.
But there's always more to uncover.
Always.
So until next time, keep those ears open and those minds curious.
And stay tuned.